لوحاتنا التاريخية.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Lebanese and these are today's top stories. Leaders from around the world gather in Johannesburg, South Africa to pay homage to Nelson Mandela. Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja and former police chief Major General Ashraf Rifi discussed the security situation in Tripoli. And scientists find evidence of an ancient freshwater lake on Mars. World leaders from U.S. President Barack Obama to Cuba's Raul Castro pay homage to Nelson Mandela at a mass memorial in South Africa, recalling his gift for bringing enemies together across political and racial divides. Coinciding with UN-designated Human Rights Day, the memorial service for Mandela in the Soccer City Stadium is the centerpiece of a week of mourning for the globally admired statesman. Joyous crowds were swelling in the stands of the stadium in Soweto despite the rain. Tight security was deployed as police patrolled a wide perimeter around the stadium. Israel's top leaders were conspicuous by their absence at the memorial, skipping the ceremony for the anti-apartheid hero. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Shimon Peres did not attend the event, citing costs and health reasons. Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja has discussed the security situation in Tripoli with former police chief Major General Ashraf Rifi. A statement from Jaja's office says the two-hour meeting, which took place at Jaja's Merab residence, also tackled the general developments in Lebanon. Rifi said that the state should take serious measures to control the situation in Tripoli, which has been fraught with intermittent clashes linked to the Syrian crisis. The case of allegations and counter-allegations by two cabinet ministers on alleged corruption that led to severe flooding is now in the hands of the judiciary. Financial prosecutor Ali Ibrahim asked the competent authorities to provide him with a text of Transport and Public Works Minister Ghazi Aridi's news conference and Finance Minister Mohammed Safadi's television interviews. Ibrahim seeks to investigate allegations made against Safadi that he withheld funds necessary for carrying out road maintenance, including preparations for the winter season, claims which Safadi has publicly denied. Syrian regime forces bombard outskirts of the rebel-held town of Yabrud, the last opposition stronghold in the strategic Kalamun region north of Damascus. The move towards Yabrud comes after government forces took over Nabuk. The capture comes part of a broad regime campaign to seize the mountainous Kalamun region, severing rebel supply routes that run across the nearby border with Lebanon. And now for news around the world in brief. About 2,000 anti-government protesters remained camped out in Kiev in defiance of riot police who herded them away from government buildings. Amid the crisis, President Viktor Yanukovych is expected to meet EU Foreign Affairs Chief Catherine Ashton. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra says she will not resign ahead of national elections set for February the 2nd. Despite opposition demands she steps down as the head of government. The protesters accuse Yingluck of serving as a proxy of her brother, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, who was toppled by a 2006 military coup on suspicion of corruption. Scientists have found evidence of an ancient freshwater lake on Mars, well suited to support microbial life. The lake, located inside Gale Crater, where the rover landed in August of 2012, likely covered an area 31 miles long and 3 miles wide. Analysis of sedimentary deposits gathered by NASA's Mars rover Curiosity shows the lake existed for at least tens of thousands of years. And coming up next, Professor Gonzalo Garland from IE Business School in Spain is in our studios. Stay tuned for the exclusive. Welcome back. The IE Alumni Association in Lebanon, in collaboration with the Spanish Embassy in Beirut and the Department of Economics at the American University of Beirut, held a panel discussion yesterday titled Lebanon and Spain, Two Countries, One Vision Out of the Economic Crisis. The experts included former Finance Minister Raya Al-Hassan, Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce Nabil Fahd, and visiting professor from IE University in Madrid, Gonzalo Garland. Over to you, Yumna.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, the IE Alumni Association in Lebanon usually works to encourage young Lebanese students to continue their education in Spain at IE, and they do so through conferences and networking events. Flying in from Spain, especially for the panel Lebanon and Spain, two countries, one vision out of the economic crisis, is the Vice President for Development at IE Business School in Madrid, Mr. Gonzalo Garland. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
I wanted to ask, according to The Guardian, and these are the latest figures, more than half of Spain's young people are unemployed. A double-dip recession has left the economy 7% smaller than it was 5 years ago, and debt has soared to nearly 100% of GDP. But Spain's Prime Minister, Mariano Rajoy, believes his country has turned the corner and can hope for better things in 2014. So what are the expectations for 2014?
Well, I would say overall that's absolutely correct. The country has gone through an important crisis in recent years, but the latest data seems to be quite positive. What we have seen is for the first time after 8 quarters of negative growth, so that means a very strong recession, in the third quarter of this year there was a positive growth. It's very small still. We're talking about 0.1%, but it's positive, and that means a change in the general trend. Also, there was more positive data on unemployment, so unemployment went down in the more recent data.
It was 26.8%, and it became 26%.
It's exactly. So we're talking about very high unemployment rates, although it does seem that there's some overvaluation of those numbers, which is common sometimes because there's an underground economy that is not recorded in those numbers. But still, I mean, unemployment continues to be a big challenge for Spain. But there are signs that the worst might have been over. So what we're seeing also is a return of confidence, a return of investment from abroad, and that is so clearly positive signs. But probably what I would emphasize more is the fact that the crisis itself has created the opportunity for reform. And there are a lot of changes that have been applied over the last 2.5 years.
What kind of changes specifically?
Well, there's significant changes, I would say, first on fiscal reform. As you were mentioning, the debt to GDP ratio is quite high, but the main reason for that, well, you could say there are two reasons for that. On the one hand, the fiscal deficit year after year continues to be high, and that has to be reduced. On the second point is the GDP is falling. So what we need to do is two things at the same time. Reduce the fiscal deficit so that the amount that you have to finance is smaller, but at the same time grows. So in relation to your GDP, that becomes smaller. No? So the fiscal effort is very, very strong. So there's a rationalization of fiscal expenditures, and there's significant reductions on several fronts, and also increases in taxes. So that has created a better fiscal position. For
the end of this year, going into the next one. I know that there was this talk about a bailout, and now I think they've withdrawn. I know Moody's rating agency just labeled Spain's economy. It went from negative to stable, so things are stabilizing. Can you tell me a little bit how Spain is faring within the Euro crisis and the European Union right now?
Yeah. Well, I would say that a year and a half ago, there was very high probabilities that Spain, just as Greece or Ireland or Portugal, would have to go through a complete bailout. That was avoided. In a way, there was a partial bailout on the financial sector, but it was not the complete bailout that the other countries went through, where you had the Troika, so you had the IMF, the European Union, and the European Central Bank imposing the policy. So that was avoided, and clearly the risk premium of the Spanish debt has reduced significantly over a year and a half. So the worst, in that sense, is over. And I think this is, you can extend that to clearly Ireland. We don't hear much about Ireland in the sense of economic crisis.
No, usually mostly Greece.
It's mostly Greece.
And Spain have been at the forefront of the big crises.
Exactly. And now it seems that Spain will probably not, I mean, it's now clear that it will not need any further assistance. At the same time, Portugal will also do better. So probably the continuing worrying point is really Greece right now. But overall, what we're seeing is Europe. You can see the forecast. If we see the forecast of the IMF, clearly still is a negative growth, but next year is expected to start to grow. If we put these together with the United States, which is also recovering, overall the forecast for 2014 would be more positive than in years before. No?
So you're expecting this. I want to bring you back to the panel that was held yesterday, which you were one of the speakers, and the panel's theme was Lebanon and Spain, and talking about the bilateral relations and trades and hopefully boosting investments. Can you tell me a little bit about what you thought of the panel and what did you take from it yesterday?
I really thought it was a very interesting panel because
we have pictures that we're going to be showing right now of the panelists. There's former Finance Minister Ms. Raya Al-Hassan talking. She was talking about Lebanon, and we'll be covering more of that tomorrow. But tell me again, I'm sorry I cut you, tell me what you thought about it.
I thought it was a very interesting panel. We had these comparisons. There was different positions on different issues, and I think it was very interesting to see how, in terms of the possibilities between Lebanon and Spain, there are things that are happening now. We're seeing Spanish firms come here and maybe opportunities of Lebanese firms also in Spain, but there's huge potential in there on the one hand. No? Also, there was this interesting discussion about some other things about limitations on monetary and fiscal policy, how probably the fixed exchange rate in Lebanon and the euro, having the euro in Europe, had some similarities, which also were very interesting to know. And at the same time, how there are other political challenges in Lebanon, for example, and
which are hindering direct foreign investments.
And especially there was discussion about reform, the need for reform, structural reform, to make the whole macro environment more favorable for businesses going abroad and being more competitive. So I thought it was a great panel. I thought it was very interesting.
In terms of IE, we're seeing a lot of Lebanese, after they're finishing their bachelor degree studies or even beforehand, going to IE. There seems to be a very important number of Lebanese students in IE. And I want to just give a shout out to Mr. Wa'il Kishli, who helped organize the event yesterday. He's the president of the IE Alumni Association in Lebanon. So thank you for that. And he's an example of one of the students that came back to Lebanon after IE. So what is it like there? What has been your experience like with a lot of Lebanese students and IE in general?
Well, it's been great. I think it's been great. We have seen an increase in the number of students from Lebanon over maybe the last 5-6 years.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we probably also came here also to try to present our institution more, and probably also international press helped us. But that's been great. It's been a great experience, and we're very proud of our Alumni Association here in Lebanon too, because they are very entrepreneurial and they organize these events by themselves. So
do you think IE offers? I know because you're on the you're a professor as well,
right?
And you're also on the board of executives on the executive board.
Yeah.
Do you think IE offers something specific or unique to maybe Lebanese or generally? And I just want to mention, it was just voted, as per the Financial Times, the #1 business school in Europe. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
What do you think IE does offer?
Well, I think it's not just one thing, probably it's a combination of things. So we're one of the most diverse schools in the world in terms of nationalities. We have people from all over the world. The largest nationality, which is actually not even Spanish, is usually either US or India in our classes. It's not more than 6% of the class. So that makes us distinctive from many schools. I won't say all schools in the world, but many schools. But at the same time, we believe that we are very innovative and we're very entrepreneurial. So we want to instill that in our students. And that's something that if you put together these things plus where we are and our faculties from all over the world, so we believe that probably makes us unique.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming here from Spain, and we look forward to having you again. Please come back and visit Beirut.
Wonderful.
That was Mr. or Professor, I should call him, Gonzalo Garland, visiting from the IE University in Spain. Back to you, Linda.
Thank you, Yumna. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Leaders from around the world gather in Johannesburg, South Africa to pay homage to Nelson Mandela. Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja and former police chief Major General Ashraf Rifi discussed the security situation in Tripoli. Finally, scientists find evidence of an ancient freshwater lake on Mars. Those are today's headlines from us here at Future Television. We'll be back again tomorrow with more updates. Till then, stay warm.
ولا يجوز أن نفسد في علاقاتنا التاريخية